Amid the lingering fuel scarcity in the country and the increase in pump price of petrol from 568 naira to 897 naira, there are now fewer vehicles on Nigerian roads, while a large number are queuing at various filling stations in a stressful situation just to buy premium motor spirit, popularly called petrol. The scarcity became very obvious after weeks of denial by the NNPC that it owed its petrol suppliers the sum of $6 billion, saying it was facing financial strains due to petrol supply costs. Meanwhile, the Nigeria Labour Congress, NLC, on Tuesday demanded an immediate reversal of the hike in fuel price announced by the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, NNPCL, saying the hike has worsened the misery of Nigerians. In addition, some Nigerians are beginning to call for the resignation of the current Minister of Petroleum. Joining us now on the morning show to discuss the current PMS supply and pricing challenges and the way out of the distressing situation is Chief Madaki or Madaki Ameh, Managing Partner, BBH Consulting and Convener, Oil, Gas and Power Forum. Good morning and welcome to the morning show, Chief Ameh.
Yeah, good morning. Nice to be here.
All right. Chief Ameh, we find ourselves in an interesting situation currently. We don't have fuel, there's scarcity, queues on our road, and recently, a few days back, NNPCL increased the price of PMS to 897 naira. I read a piece by you just before the inauguration of the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and you gave some recommendations as to some of the things he can do in the immediate with regards to oil and in the oil and gas sector. One, you are an advocate of the removal of fuel subsidy, but you also talked about there not being a further increase in the price and the pump price of petrol. Do you still align with that thought? Was this increase inevitable, or is there a better way that this could have been handled to not plunge Nigerians into further suffering?
Well, thanks very much. That's a very good question. Quite frankly, my position has always been consistent that the increase in near perpetual increase in pump price of petrol is actually an indicator of getting the economics around the pricing of the product wrong from the beginning. And so when I suggested to this government that they could actually stop the payment of subsidy, which actually flows into private pockets, but still keep prices at levels that Nigerians can afford, the idea was to address the pricing issue in a professional and cost-effective manner. And, why do I say this? The trajectory appears to be that there will be no end to the increases as we are going right now. The reason is that the Naira is on a free fall. So for every time that the currency devalues, Nigerians are going to have to pay more for it based on the current pricing mechanism that NNPC is running. I listened to the Group Executive Director downstream of NNPC just before this program started. And I didn't get the feeling that there's any structured thinking around how this pricing situation can be reined in. We all know that the pump price of the product, all the products, PMS, AGO, DPK, aviation fuel, is driven by the price of crude oil. And crude oil, the crude oil element in the pricing of the pump products, is always about 80% of the price. So if you don't rein in the cost of crude oil one way or the other, there's no way you're going to be able to rein in the cost of the products at the pump. And we're just following the process. We're just rambling along. But I see Nigerians paying so much more, than what we are currently paying. In fact, yesterday I bought fuel at the Total Petrol outlet in Abuja for 918 naira per liter. So when they say it's 897, that's if you are lucky to get to an NNPC petrol station and you can survive the queues. But the other marketers are selling at a markup that's far beyond that. And at 918 naira per liter, after spending 104,000 naira to try to fill my tank, the tank was still not full. I had to ask them to stop. And the queue, and the annoying thing about this thing is that expensive, outrageously expensive as this product is, the product is still not even available. So you see people queuing up for hours only to buy fuel for 10,000 naira, which is barely 10 liters. So what are we talking about?
Those are the questions, sir. Now, I'm glad you listened to that interview earlier with the executive of NNPCL. And one of the things that came into focus was the issue of PIA and what seems to be selective implementation of this very crucial act. Now, what's your take? Is the issue within the PIA itself? Does it need to be amended? Or what needs to be done for us to be able to hold NNPC and the government accountable for actually implementing it to its last detail and not selectively implementing it? What's the problem? Is it the PIA itself or what we're doing with it?
Well, I think it is what we are doing with it. Usually implementation of laws in Nigeria is very shoddy. And, most people just take actions without actually referring to the provisions of the law. So and because everybody tries to pass the buck, whenever there is a glitch like this, I think it will be very shameful, for executives to blame the PIA for their inability to perform. We have been in this country and we have witnessed, underperformance and crass incompetence. On and on and on, then there is no consequence management for inability to perform. It is somebody's duty to ensure that there are no queues at the petrol stations. But here we are, for decades we have been in this. Every single time we are going from one situation to the other. The PIA is a relatively recent law. So nobody, who is thinking clearly should be blaming the PIA for the current queues that we experience or the inability of NNPC and the regulators to rein in, the ever escalating prices of petroleum products at the pump. Before they said that, PMS, that AGO and DPK, were not regulated, and that, they were regulating the price of PMS to make things easy for Nigerians. But as it is right now, PMS is almost catching up with the price of AGO and DPK. And what that means is that the original pricing of those products was never even right in the first place. And Nigerians have been consistently thrown under the bus. I heard when the executive director downstream of NNPC said that, that the landing cost of the product is in excess of 1,000 naira, maybe like 1,200. What I heard him say is that Nigerians should still expect, pricing that gets to that level. But already in some parts of this country, people are already paying 1,250 naira. A friend of mine called me from Otukpo, my town, this morning. And, he went to the station to buy fuel, and it was 1,250 naira at the pump. So 50,000 naira that he had with him to buy fuel, to be able to go to the state capital in Makurdi and come back, hopefully, was only able to buy him 40 liters of petrol. So we are getting into a situation that is never going to end. And every economy finds a way of solving a problem that is peculiar to it. We can't be an oil-producing country and then we're indexing the price of our products at the pump on the international price of crude. As long as we keep doing that and we're not indexing it on the wellhead cost of production of a barrel of crude oil plus some markup, for profit, by the operators, then we have a problem. And then we are going to continue to be running after the... sorry.
Sorry, I want to intervene both in here, sir, if you permit me. We all fairly agree right now, and NNPC has agreed that it has financial problems. All of us right now depend on the NNPC one way or the other, 200 million plus of us, as long as you live in this country. And that's, I think we can fairly agree on that. So if the NNPC, the geese that's laying the golden egg, is having serious problem, do you have any idea of how to get NNPC back on its feet and get it up and running to be that organization that can lead the country also forward in terms of not just revenue, but ensuring that we have a sustainable product supply within the country, take the leadership position and do it well. How do we reflate the NNPC? Do you have any idea on how this could be done, and very quickly?
I think the first principle is to get NNPC to be properly managed. To be blunt, I think that the way the NNPC has been run over the past couple of decades, has not been optimal. We have to admit that to ourselves, And when the president recently virtually reappointed the entire, management team, the message that sent to the entire industry is that he's happy with the way the place is being run. Because, it takes human beings to make a difference in any sector. And quite frankly, I think that the current management of NNPC has run out of ideas on any form of innovation as far as the challenges facing NNPC is concerned. And those challenges are very many. The refineries are never working. They are always in the process of being turned around or about to be turned around. And those turnaround effects, we never get to see them at the pump. Now there is a Dangote refinery that has sort of come to the rescue, and then there are still all manner of, debilitating challenges, in the way of ensuring that everything takes off effectively. And then apart from that, also is this perennial issue of not being able to get the policy around the pricing of the product right. And I don't think that that's rocket science. I think it's just a policy pronouncement that can be made very quickly and very easily. At least that 445,000 barrels, which was the combined capacity of the moribund 4 refineries in the country, in Kaduna, the 2 in Port Harcourt and the 1 in Warri, that had been set aside long ago for local consumption. The pricing of that element of crude oil should not be at the international price. Call it subsidy, call it whatever you want to call it, but because of the huge influence of the price of petroleum products on all other pricing activities in the country, the government just needs to take a decision to say, okay, fine. How much does it cost us to produce a barrel of crude oil?
Yes.
Properly accounted for.
Yes.
And then we start doing the pricing from that premise.
Yes.
Once we do that, then NNPC will not be reporting false profits as I think they did in the last books. We never saw the 6.6.
The NNPC is not the only government enterprise in Nigeria. And there are a number of other government agencies within the economy that are fairly run decently well. Do you think at some point that the NNPC over the last 10, 20, 30, 40 years had become a tool in the hands of successive governments, that perhaps the NNPC itself has no problem, but it's just dancing to the tune, whatever the new administration and the next one and the next one decides to do? Are they just the same, or you think that the NNPC is just change the management, change the managing director, change the board, then you think everything is fine, then the next administration comes, then it changes or reappoints, and whatever the case may be? Do you think we're just moving around in circles, that the government has to come to a point in which it has to let NNPC go, that the NNPC itself is being held hostage in the manner of speaking, because it cannot implement the law, the PIA, that he's supposed to implement?
Well, every organization must be run by people. And my view is that, for you to be able to go home and have a good night's sleep, and feel that you're adding value, you should just be ready to do an honest job, for an honest pay. When your ability to perform and to be seen to be professional in any role is circumscribed by directives that you get from politicians who are not even very vast in the industry, I think the right thing to do is to bow out of the environment and move on, to other more productive ways of living your life. I don't think it's fair, on the people who are even working in the NNPC at the moment, for them to come up with this sort of excuses, that they are kowtowing to the policies of government at any point in time. They just added limited to the name of NNPC. And I thought that, as a limited liability company, even though the owners are still Ministry of Finance Incorporated and Ministry of Petroleum Incorporated, which is still government, But at least the management team should demonstrate their ability to get some things done. What's happening in Nigeria now is actually a scandal. You know, nobody saw this $6.6 billion debt coming. So what does that mean? We've been buying petrol at exorbitant prices, you know, all along. Is it that the money doesn't find its way into the procurement of other products in the market, or what? You know, and how come this was not reflected in the books, in the last published books of NNPC? We heard that they made 3.3 trillion naira, you know, profit.
I want to, you know, the vice president downstream just said, well, that's the $6.8 billion has been bandied around. He didn't actually give a figure. The NNPC has not actually come out to say this is the actual figure. So he said perhaps it's more, perhaps it's less. That's what he said. But he didn't give a figure. So we don't know what the actual figure is. But I think your views and opinions and insights in the industry is well appreciated. Thank you so much, Madaki, Ameh. Thank you so much for your time out of our Abuja studio.